There is a voice in your head that's telling you you're not good enough. And the problem is that your brain is believing it, not because it's true, but because you've been repeating it to yourself over and over again. There's this well-documented quirk about your brain and how it interprets truth. The more you hear something, the more it feels true, even if it's false. The voice that you hear more often than not is not coming from an ad, it's not coming from the news, it's coming from your own mind. So your harshest self-talk really has an unfair advantage. But that same quirk actually can work in the other way. There's a real science behind it and how you can leverage it in your favor. We're going to look at the mechanism, how mindfulness and neuroscience come together to have you turn around that negative thinking that's slowly wearing you away and limiting your potential. The other thing is that this is not something new. This is the strange part. It's not a new discovery. 25 centuries ago, the Buddha opened one of his most famous teachings, the Dhammapada, with the line that's rendered often as we are what we think. In other words, all that we are arises from our own thoughts. His tradition even had a word for it that also is used in yogic tradition. Every repeated action, including a mental one, lays down a foundation, a groove that's called a samsara. This groove is worn into your mind. Neuroscience now calls this neuroplasticity, how you repeat something and it creates pathways in your nervous system that makes things that we repeat often easier to do. Think about playing a piano. We initially have to put a lot of effort. A, B, C seem difficult, but as I repeat, I can now do A, B, and C automatically. Then I graduate and I move to C, D, and F. And A, B, and C, I don't have to think about. In the same way, the way that I repeat these thought loops can make them become a reality. And so contemplatives were mapping the inside journey of this mechanism, whereas neuroscientists were drawing the same map, but from the outside, maybe using modern technology like brain scans. And I'm going to show you what they found. Again, as usual, if you like this video, please give it a like, share it with somebody that you think is having this inner critic being very harsh. And of course, give us a like, subscribe. It really helps us to reach more people. We're now putting one video per week on Mondays instead of Wednesdays. In addition, of course, we're on all social medias. I'm Dr. B, Dr. Brian Ramos. I'm the creator of Zen Brain Academy, and I'm a Yale-trained neuroscientist. We launched Zen Brain Academy and this channel because we saw that there was a need to fuse to get greater understanding over ancient practices, contemplative practices in the modern world, to fuse modern technology with ancient wisdom, to be able to gain greater leverage in a world that's becoming much more AI powered, algorithmic driven, and it's really negatively impacting people in ways that they don't realize. We do the deep dive on how all the things in the digital age, all of our habits are really doing away with our body and our brain. So why does your brain believe your worst thoughts? Let's talk about this illusory truth effect. What this means is that the more you encounter a statement, the truer it feels. So if something is familiar, it's easier to process. Your brain is always going to follow the path of least resistance. Your brain is going to read ease, something that's easy, as a signal for truth. It's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to break bad habits, because they're already built into the network. They're already built into almost hardwired, and they're easy for us to continue to execute. Fluent feels true, even for false or implausible statements. And this is something you're going to see very clearly today. In 2026, there was a Nature Communications study. And in this study, 182 studies were analyzed, over 30,000 people, nearly 50 years. And it showed that this illusory truth effect is real, but it's reversible. In the same way that you can create it, you can undo it through small, repetitions. We have to be consistent. But if we repeat something 1,000 times, it compounds. And so a lot of the times the conversations that we have, what we repeat becomes a reality because we've repeated it so much. In the digital age, it becomes even more pressing. Why? Because of propaganda advertising that's juiced up by AI powered algorithms that know you better sometimes even than you know yourself. And so we have to be mindful of this, mindful of how these algorithms are impacting us, and more importantly, how our own algorithms ran by our own inner software is doing the same thing. So what's the most repeated message we hear all day? It's our own thoughts, our own inner voice, that inner self-talk and chatter. It's one of the reasons why I've been an advocate of meditation and mindfulness, to be able to reel in and gain control over that inner ruler. Oftentimes, people don't realize they live without control over the most powerful tool they have, which is their brain. They don't have control over their own mind. And they have this inner critic that isn't reporting reality. And it's playing a track that's been replayed so many times, it feels like fact. And then what happens is confirmation bias kicks in. And what happens here is that you start to filter the world through the evidence that fits. So I already have a belief, and that belief will determine how I highlight certain things in my own life. I stumble. I may have a win, but I discount it. And I keep repeating this. This becomes actually a problem in not just in the digital age, but in general. It creates a loop of sorts. My beliefs are going to determine what decisions, what planning I make about my life. Am I going to be fearful? Am I going to take action? Am I going to be take initiative? And those planning that I do is going to determine my actions. My actions are going to yield certain results, but and those results are going to feed back to my beliefs. But if my beliefs are limiting, guess what planning I'm going to do? Guess what actions I'm going to take? Get what results I'm going to be getting? They're going to support my beliefs and compound the strength of those beliefs. And so that's something that you have to keep in mind. It's a positive feedback loop that just keeps working over and over again. And you want to be mindful of that because it will really limit you further. But in the same way that you can compound something in that negative sense, you can compound it in a positive sense. Again, let me be precise about what neuroplasticity is doing. Remember, we talked about this contemplative tradition view of samskaras, these grooves of the mind. Neuroscience calls them plasticity, creating and strengthening pathways in your brain to make them easier to access, whether it's a habit or a thought pattern still holds, or a skill. Repeating a thought makes your brain accept it as literal is not true. It's not an objective fact. The repeated thought strengthens a neural pathway. It thereby then makes it easier for me to activate that in the future. If I think of myself a certain way, I repeat it all the time, it will be easier for me to think about myself that way. It's like walking over grass and I keep squishing the grass and I create a pathway and that where I've just worn out the grass. It doesn't make that the only pathway I can take. I could go that way or this way and wear out another path. It just makes that more accessible. Because oftentimes, if I'm lost in a forest and there's a lot of high grass and I'm walking, but I see an area that's a clearing, I'm more than likely going to take that clearing. It looks more accessible, and by default, I take that pathway. When I used to do research with animals would go to one side, get a reward. When it would go out again, it would follow the path that rewarded previously. That's the easy choice. We always go with the easy pathway instead of going to the other side, which is the one that I would resist because I would think that there would be no reward in the opposite direction. So we have to really Be comfortable with discomfort and start to map out new avenues in our brain. So the trail worn by walking can be worn somewhere else. And that's the good news. That's what I want you to keep in mind. You can blaze a new trail. The real cost of not doing anything is persistent negative self-talk, the form of repetitive negative thinking that we're talking about today in this video is linked to depression, anxiety, lower well-being. A study of over 2,000 people, around 2,000 people, predicted this over time. If your inner critic is loud, constant, heavy, repetitive, then it's going to be worth taking seriously. And one of the things that we often don't realize is that we don't take it seriously. We may be shameful of our own difficulties without realizing that we want to take our mental fitness because I am strong, but I can become stronger. And it's not just about taking this contemplative path of mindfulness, which I'll share an example of how you can use mindfulness for this, to combat this, to create new, more powerful version of yourself. But you should also embrace a good therapist, going to see a neuropsychologist. So maybe you need cognitive behavioral therapy because it's going to be very effective to combat it from the inside using mindfulness meditation, let's say, and then from the outside with somebody that's skilled. Because remember, this is a skill set that benefits from support. So keep that in mind. I never advocate really just going one side. You want to have something that's balanced. So the same mechanism that build this pattern that you want to remove or fix or change or replace with a new one, if you have a balanced, self-compassionate way of thinking, it really makes a big difference. And the approach we're going to share now is a mindfulness cognitive approach that's very effective. In a previous video, I discussed this. In a previous video, I explained how multitasking was a myth, how notifications were really draining out on my productivity, how we needed to rebuild that in the digital age. And so oftentimes when somebody sits and meditates, they struggle because thoughts come in and they wrestle with them and they allow the thought to just take them this way and that way. But in that practice, we learn, especially when you're practicing mindfulness, that thoughts come and go, that we are in our thoughts and emotions. Oftentimes we embody the experience, the thought or the emotion, and then we identify, we label ourselves as anxious because we had an anxious moment. Anxiety was telling us that we were going beyond our limits. We were ignoring it. And all of a sudden, I repeat the same habits every day. I get the same cues from my nervous system. And then I connect and I say, I'm an anxious person. I struggle with anxiety. When in reality, it's I have a system in place that is generating an experience in my brain that is trying to tell me, stop doing what you're doing. Change it up so that I don't have to tell you that you are doing it wrong and you then say, I'm anxious. And so what I want you to realize is that thoughts come and go. They're not you. And oftentimes we have thoughts of ourselves and we just replay them until they become a part of our nervous system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a similar strategy as if you were meditating or I'm working and I'm distracted and I want to kind of come back in a sense, come back to my work. I keep doing this mindfulness training while I'm working because I don't want to, and you're going to notice that I'm not going to be teaching just something that you're just going to do in a separate room on a mat or a meditation pillow. It's something that you can integrate into the very fabric of everything that you do. It's something that I've become a master at integrating all the practice that I teach in Zen Brain Academy, from breath work to movement, what have you. I integrate it into everything that I do. So if you have balanced, compassionate thinking, plus mindfulness and cognitive structuring, it's going to lower that negative thinking and lift the mood. And studies support this. I'm not talking about here fake, overly dramatic positivity. I'm not telling myself that I'm a billionaire when I'm broke or don't have a job. Your brain is not going to believe those extreme things. The goal is to have something balanced and true, not fake and overly positive. So you want to go with accurate and kind rather than harsh and false. So keep that in mind. Be realistic. Meet yourself where you are. You want to build a greater you, accept where you are, and start building from there. It's like when people tell me they want to learn to meditate, but they keep struggling, is because they don't accept where they are. When their mind is wrestling, they don't know what to do. They think that there's something wrong with them. So here is the rewrite loop. This is similar to that practice when you're working. This is a mindfulness skill as much as it is a thinking skill. First step is to catch it. No harsh line. Notice that harsh line. I want you to notice it when it plays. Name it. Break the automatic loop. Don't allow it, like, for example, I made a mistake and all of a sudden I think I'm a loser. The question your thoughts, anything that goes against you being happy, you being great, you being powerful, you being successful, so on and so forth, is not you. You've attached to it, but it doesn't belong or is not you. It's coming from another source. Your brain, in a sense, is like an antenna, and you've chosen to tune into the wrong information. Ask yourself, is it true or just familiar? Would you tell a friend you're a loser? If the answer is no, those thoughts that you're saying, you wouldn't tell it to somebody else, because often we are our worst critic, but we are much kinder and compassionate with other people. So put yourself like if you were a third person asking somebody else, a friend, force an accuracy check. Is there any evidence for this? And more than likely, the answer is going to be no. Replace it with a truer, kinder version, a more believable version of yourself. Not a fantasy, not an exaggeration, something your brain can accept that will counter what you have been repeating over and over again. And you're going to keep doing this. Just like in meditation, when the thought arises, you acknowledge it, let it go, and go back to focusing on the breath or what have you. Just like when you're working, you're doing this mindfulness practice. All of a sudden, when the notification buzzes or something, you get distracted. You do the same thing. You catch it, you let it go, and go back to the work. Here, you're going to catch it, but you're going to be doing something in between that's different. You're not just going to acknowledge it and let it go. You're going to question it. You're going to pause. You're going to evaluate. You're going to seek to replace it. And you're going to repeat this over and over again on purpose. Because remember, with every rep, I am creating a new samskara, a new groove, a new neuroplastic pathway in my brain. A vote of who you're going to become. You're becoming in that moment because your brain can allow you to become anything. So, your next step, you're going to put this into practice. Repetition is going to make it feel true. All right. That inner critic may be familiar, but it's not accurate. It's not the real you. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. Stop clinging to them. Don't attach to them. Take it, question it, evaluate it, repeat it, replace it with something new every time, with something balanced and true. And for those who want free things, join zenbrain.academy for free. We're soon porting over to a new group. Those that are already in can get an opportunity to become parts of the Founding 100. The Founding 100 members will get access to HeyZenith.ai, my AI coaching guru app that will be powered by over 25 years of IP. Really, really powerful, cool stuff that will really impact your life, and you will have access to it for free for an extended period to test it, to experience it, and it's unlike anything that has ever been done. You can also get a free book of my book, Inside Out Calm. Join the newsletter that's in the description wherever you may be watching this. It's the Zen Brain Blueprint on Beehive. All right? And remember, your worst thoughts aren't the verdict. They're just things that you have well rehearsed. You've repeated them and repeated them until you've made them a reality. All right. So with that, I will see you in the next video. Take care. Stay zen.